Welcome back to Cadet Rob's 1985's rank insignia page. Today I'm going to be doing a redo of a video I did in the past and about the United States Air Force enlisted ranks. And I've been doing research lately to address some comments on the page and update some things. So let's just go ahead. All right, so of course the United States Air Force started out of the United States Army Air Service, which was around from 1892 until 1919 as part of the Signal Corps in the Army. And so the stripes that they had at that time were, of course, Army stripes, and you had your private first class, your corporal, the sergeant, and your staff sergeant, or actually sergeant first class, my mistake. It looks like the modern day staff sergeant, but it's a sergeant first class. And then you have your air service master signals electrician. Then as we move out of the World War I era, the Army Air Corps, as part of the entire Army, simplified their insignia. And so you had a series of stripes from one chevron for a private first class, which was the second rank after private, and then 2 for corporal, 3 for sergeant, a rocker bar, right, or a bent chevron or bent bar, 2 rockers with technical, 2 rockers, and a diamond or lozenge for a first sergeant, and 3 for a master sergeant. Then as we move into the World War II era, one thing that was common was putting back that insignia that you saw from the World War I era, the wings and propeller insignia back on the stripes. But you also had the technical sergeants or the technicians. And so you have those every starting with grade 5, right? And this is when they put in the 7-grade system, with grade 7 being the lowest and grade 1 being the highest. And you have your technician 5 at grade 5, and they would be below the corporal. The corporal would be an actual someone with authority, right? A non-commissioned officer. The technicians were exactly that. They were technical or specialists, and they didn't usually have any command authority except over other lower-ranking technicians. Although a technician 5 would not be bossed around by a private first class, right? So, a technician 4, might have a little trouble with a corporal, that kind of thing. So it was a very complicated system, but it still just kind of basically took after the previous interwar era of stripes. But then in 1949, after World War II was over, the Air Force is actually born, and when it's first born, they decide, that they need to have their own insignia, their own stripes. And so, but they do keep some of the rank titles from holdover from when they were part of the Army. So you see the 7-grade system is still in effect, and their lowest rank is private, and then private first class, corporal, sergeant, and you see the same things, right? 1 stripe for private, 2 for corporal, 3 for sergeant, 4 for staff sergeant, right? Technical sergeant, and then master sergeant. Then as we move forward, in the mid-50s, they decided that they were going to try to straighten out the bars. General Vandenberg, this is one of his, he was the commander of the Air Force at the time. This is one of his ideas. They did actually, and you can find some examples of these straight bar stripes. And I don't know if they ever actually issued them to any airmen, but this was the plan. And they, however, were not able to really get them in production. And by the time the next command general came in, he kind of scrapped the idea. But they did change the titles, getting rid of private and corporal and even sergeant, right? And changing it from private to airman. And so you had your basic airman, your airman third class, your airman second class, and then your airman third class. But then they kept staff sergeant, technical sergeant, and master sergeant. In 1958, they did actually do a restructuring of, this is when all the services switched from 7 grades to the 9 grades that we have today, the E, what they call N through E9, right? The enlisted grades that we have in today's service. And so, but they did keep most of the same titles, especially down here at the bottom. E1, 2, 3, all that's the same. They did add the master sergeant, first sergeant, the first sergeant at the master sergeant level, right? The E7 level, and at the E8 is a new level, the senior master sergeant, and the E9, the chief master sergeant. And so they just took the existing E7 master sergeant stripes and added this top rockers, these top chevrons, I mean, right? And as you can see, it made the stripe. And so then they added the 3 first sergeants, the E7, the E8, and the E9 first sergeants. These are a temporary position in the Air Force. It's not a permanent rank. And so if you change jobs, you can return back to the previous. So an E7 who goes back to not being a first sergeant would just be a master sergeant, and then a senior master sergeant or a chief master sergeant, depending on what rank they are. Okay. So then 1959 to 1966, kind of see that it's pretty much the same as before. The biggest change was an airman. That's right. So the big change was airman basic from basic airman, and that was pretty much the only change there in that time period. Then after Vietnam, or at the height of Vietnam, actually 1967 until 1975, then they added the Chief Master Sergeant in the Air Force in 1967. Right, this is a new position to be the advisor to the Chief of Staff of the Air Force. And then in 1976, they decided to white out, or blue out, I guess, the lowest 3 ranking insignia. So, and they changed the titles here too. So from airmen stayed the same, but you can see they blued out the center of the Air Force star and ball logo. And then same thing with Airman First Class, that stayed the same, but Sergeant became Senior Airman. And this, I think, was a decision to try to separate the first 4 ranks, the E1 through E4, from the sergeant ranks, right, from the non-commissioned officers. And so you see they split E4 into actual 2 positions, right? So you have your Senior Airman, and then you have your E4 Sergeant, who was a non-com. So the E4 Senior Airman was not a non-commissioned officer. And this is similar to the way the Army still does the E4 Specialist and the E4 Corporal, right? As one is a non-commissioned officer, a non-com, and the other one is an enlisted, in this case, an enlisted airman, right? Not a non-commissioned officer. So it doesn't have that authority or responsibilities, but they're both the same pay grade, right? You can see now, they're splitting pay grades up, and you're going to see this especially at the E9 position, where it just gets split into more and more sub ranks, but at the same pay grade. And so the rest of them pretty much stay the same. Then in 1993, they changed the color of the stripes, and they also changed the design. So let's keep this one up. So these kind of all stay the same, except they get rid of that blue in the center of the insignia and return them back to the way they were previous to 1976, even though they changed the color. The stripes are whiter and the blue is brighter, and that matches the change in the dress uniforms as well, from a darker blue to a lighter blue, slightly lighter blue. It's not a huge difference, but it's enough. I think the stripes really show it more, as they used to be silver and blue, dark blue, and now they're white and a lesser, more royal blue. But they changed 7 to have they took that bottom 6th rocker off and put it on the top as a chevron, and then the same. And I think it's they wanted the 7, 8, and 9, the highest 3 in non-commissioned officers, to have more prestige, similar to in the Navy and in the Army, where the highest 3, the E7, E8, and E9, are set apart a little bit from the other ranks. And so they did that, and then but one of the things it did make the patches on the uniforms even larger, especially the E9 with the 3 pointed chevrons on top. Just gave them so then in 1998, they added the Command Chief Master Sergeant at the E9 position. So now we have 4 E9 positions instead of only 3. And I think this goes along with what was going on in the Navy at the same time, with adding the Command Master Petty Officers. Then 2004, they updated the insignia of the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force to match what was going on in the Marines and the Army, with that Department of Defense, the U.S. logo with the eagle in the middle. Other than that, pretty much everything else stays the same. And then finally in 2019, they created the position wasn't new. The Senior Enlisted Advisor to the Chairman was old, and there had already been a Senior Enlisted Advisor to the Chairman. But they created a new insignia in 2019 as a new Senior Enlisted Advisor to the Chairman. A new Air Force Senior Enlisted Advisor to the Chairman took that role. So that is the newest rank for the Air Force, which gives them now 5 E9 patches: Chief Master Sergeant, right? Chief Master Sergeant, First Sergeant, Command Chief Master Sergeant, Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force, and Senior Enlisted Advisor to the Chairman. Hope you like this video. Please like, share, comment, and visit my website as you see below in the description.